Hello, I'm Adin and welcome to a basic guide for the Protection Paladin. To be honest, I had a really negative experience with this spec in the beta period of Legion, and therefore I had a negative impression of it coming into the launch of Legion. Now it is my favorite spec of the three Paladin ones. This drastic change, in my opinion, for the class happened due to a couple of changes they made during the past 3 months. The main gripe I had with it in the beta was the lack of a resource system, as we don't have holy power as prot anymore, and mana is still a non-issue. The problem with that was that there was nothing to replace it with. So objectively there was nothing to replace the resource system we had for so long. The abilities didn't have much synergy, so casting any of them didn't make enough of an impact on your character in order to make a semblance of coherent gameplay. That's in the past, however. Now it is an incredibly potent spec for two reasons. It has great self-healing and ally healing, and it has a plethora of big and small cooldowns alike. The only thing it lacks is a passive damage reduction, so it takes much more punishment than other tanks. Now, if you ever played with the Paladin before, the Protection Paladin, this might sound familiar. It does share the positives and negatives with a lot of the previous versions of the same spec, but they are represented in a different way. So glad to see it change, but not actually change. The first thing to note before we get into specifics is how the absence of a passive damage reduction mechanic affects the gameplay. Now, instead of having a lot of time to react to incoming or already done to you damage, you have a limited time. The gameplay of warriors and druids in particular is much more lenient because of that fact. That just means that you have to be alert at all times and correctly manage your heals and your active mitigation. Now, your main spell, and the one the whole class is based upon, is reactive in nature. So let's start there. It's called Light of the Protector, and it heals for a big percentage of your missing HP. So missing HP. That means that the less HP you have, the more HP it will heal. That doesn't mean, of course, it will always be a good idea to let your health slip and then heal for as much as you can. That's not good for the healers, right? So with it, you can never heal to full HP, unless you have like a ridiculous buff, or you have acquired a lot of gear later in the expansion, a lot of passives and cooldowns. So why is this spell so important? The simple answer is it allows you to actually heal forever and basically never die, as long as the damage you receive isn't high enough to one or two shot you. That is the main reason I managed to solo the entirety of Eye of Ashara Heroic in my previous video. Of course, for it to be that strong and allow you to do these like unorthodox things, you need to spec into your talent tree for it, and there are a couple of variations on the actual spell. So let's talk math for a second. Baseline, it heals 25% of your missing health. That number increases as your item level increases, so baseline heal for me is 38%. The main scaling stat is mastery because it gives you attack power, but I'm not sure 100% on that. Anyway, 38% is a big heal on its own. Then you can increase it by 20% if you stand in consecration by default. 20% of 38 is 7.6. So when I stand in consecration, it's 46 of my missing HP. And now this buff to the spell can be made baseline if you spec into the first talent tier into Consecrated Hammer. After that, you can increase the heal by another 35% when activating Avenging Wrath. Now 35% of 48 is 16, and 16 plus 46 is 62, right as it says here. And even this isn't the end. In the artifact tree you can increase the healing of Light of the Protector by another 30 to 50% depending on the relics you have, or even 60 if you have the third one. Now I have 30% as I haven't spec'd fully into it, but I have one relic that increases it. Anyway, I tested this spell with all its cooldowns, with all of this, on exactly 15% of my maximum HP. So at 15% I have 356k and am missing exactly 2 million. Now the heal with Avenging Wrath would heal 1.2 million, while with the artifact passive it heals for 1.6 million. That is a big difference. That is 400k difference in heal just from that artifact passive. And it is a big difference for us prot paladins, as our health pool is much lower than the other tanks. So basically at low HP an instacast spell can heal for 1.6 million HP when buffed. That on its own isn't very reliable, right? Because the cooldown is 15 seconds or less depending on your haste. Mine is at 13 seconds. That's still a lot. Now, as we are weak otherwise, and without cooldowns we can't survive much. That's always been true for a paladin. As soon as he runs out of cooldowns, he's basically dead. So he has to manage his cooldowns correctly. So a 13-second heal, no matter how strong it is, isn't going to help us much. So, to combat that, we have two talent tiers to help us. The first talent is Hand of the Protector. Now it just basically reduces the cooldown by 4 seconds, making it a 9 seconds cost with the amount of haste I have. It also doesn't state that you get the benefit from consecration, but you actually do. It's just a bug probably. Then there is the final talent, Righteous Protector. It reduces the cooldown of Hand of the Protector or Light of the Protector, if it's not upgraded, by 3 seconds every time you use Shield of the Righteous. Think of that. A super strong heal that is instant and has a 9-second cooldown, which can be decreased by our active mitigation, which we constantly use. It basically forms a flow to our gameplay of heal, then shield, then wait for the cooldown on heal again while casting other spells, then heal again, and then shield again, and so on and so forth. With that routine, and that routine alone, you will be an unstoppable tank in the current content, even with low gear, it doesn't matter. So just heal, then shield, then heal, then shield. But after that, all that is needed is reactive gameplay, so that you know how to use all of your other abilities. Do you need the heal quicker, so you waste a shield or two for it? Do you need a shield in the near future, so you hold on the heal and trust your healer? Do you have other cooldowns available or not, and so on. But when you learn just how to use these two abilities to their fullest potential, you have mastered the main gameplay of this spec. Only then can you move on to more complicated and risky builds. Another reason why this is such a good build is that the shield literally keeps you alive while you wait for your heal. it does a huge amount of damage reduction compared to previous versions. With only 18% mastery, it gives 44% of damage reduction, 44%, and that number will just get higher. Now you can also stack it like before, which is good if you need to waste them for a heal. So if you haven't noticed, unlike all of my other guides, this one doesn't have much structure and is all over the place. But I feel like it needs to be like that for this spec. There is no point in talking about the multitude of baseline spells much as this is literally the build everyone should go for at the moment, and it is entirely based on two talents, Hand of the Protector and Righteous Protector. Literally every other talent can be exchangeable. I would highly recommend experimenting with them, as most have at least an occasional use. Now, going from the top, Blessed Hammer is incredibly more fun to use. It's a literal copy of a Diablo ability, but it also is better than the Hammer of the Righteous when you aren't forced to move much in fights, so you can stay in your consecration, therefore you don't need the other talent. Holy Shield is just subpar compared to the other two. Now, Bastion of Light is a must-have. I did try the other two talents and I just felt super unsafe without the 3 extra shields every 3 minutes. So only take something else here if you feel comfortable with losing those 3 shields, and I personally don't. Maybe with more gear. Blinding Light is sort of a DPS increase here, and the other two aren't, so that's maybe a default choice. I would personally prefer it over the other, just for the extra AoE damage. In the next 3 there is really no default choice, it's all about the situation. Retribution Aura should be used when you don't need the other two. That means if you need magic protection instead of physical protection, the Blessing of Spell Warding is the go-to. On rare occasions you do need the Cavalier, as I did when soloing the Wrath of Ajara. And in the level 90 tier, really the default should be the Judgment of Light. However, if you end up in fights where you are constantly forced to stack, Consecrated Ground is better as it heals everyone, not just the people who are attacking the boss, and overall it heals more. Now, Aegis of Light is one of the more interesting spells added to the game. It works exactly like the shield from God King Skovald, but only reducing the damage you take by 20%, and it's only 10 yards, so it's really situational, but if pulled off correctly and everyone else knows what to do, how to get behind it, where it is, to see it even in raids, it's basically an extra barrier from a Disciplined Priest. Oh, and I'm mentioning only raids here, since all of the dungeons are trivial for most tanks. And for this build, it's just boring as hell. So basically, unless you and your healer are CC'd for more than 5 seconds, you can't die, as long as you press buttons in the correct order. The main point to make is that there is this build with the Hand of the Protector and buffing it to infinity, and then there are other builds that lack its survivability. Meaning, if you ever get enough gear so that you don't have to worry about dropping too fast, and you get to the point where the baseline CD on Light of the Protector is enough to keep you alive, then you can consider some more risky builds built around Seraphim and Avenger's Shield, as they can be really good, but again, they need a lot of gear. I really think that by design there is supposed to be one build that is OP this early into the expansion because of the benefits to survivability. Now, as for the artifact build, I really screwed up. I went for the Avenger's Shield Absorb, but I didn't know then how weak that absorb would be with our low pre-raid gear, and how much the gameplay revolves around the self-healing. Going for the extra healing on Light of the Protector and buffing for Barons along the way would have been much better. After that, I should have gone for the Avenger's Shield, so by the time I get there, I have more gear and more DPS, and the absorb will be relevant. But the only good thing about it is, in dungeons, if you hit multiple targets, the absorb builds based on all damage you do, not just on the first target. Now, the entire top half of the tree is filled with DPS increases and minor buffs to spells that you basically don't need. So the only reasonable route is to go for the healing early on, and then head to the shields and damage reduction on Shield of the Righteous and Avenger's Shield, while picking up, as I said, for Barons and Blessing of Sacrifice. And only then I would say it's okay to go for the damage increases. They really didn't think this one through, I believe, but whatever. The main talent tree is interesting enough. Now let's see a solo kill of a boss in Maw of Souls, as looking at a normal dungeon, I mean mythic dungeon, is just boring. Before we start though, there are just a couple of things to note. First, if we were looking at the normal boss fight, the amount of healing your Light of the Protector or Hand of the Protector can do on other players is staggering. When I had bad healers, I always used to heal more, but not myself. Rather, I would heal others. It's just one click. Even if you heal another tank that has like 4 million HP, it's still percentage based, and you will heal him to full HP with a cooldown like Avenging Wrath. So keep that in mind while being in dungeons. You can absolutely heal someone effectively, and I would say even more effectively at the moment than a healer can. Second, Judgment reduces the cooldown of Shield of the Righteous. This means that in only one global cooldown you can actually cast 3 spells. Judgment to reduce the shield's cooldown, and Shield to reduce the Light of the Protector's cooldown. The timing of those 2 cooldowns are perfectly aligned, so that often there is an opportunity to do this. Both cooldowns can be at 3 to 5 seconds, let's say, and both have their own global cooldown. This means that in only one global cooldown, as long as you spam both buttons, you can cast them all. This has saved my life a lot of times. It also means that the Judgment is a priority cast whenever you have a global cooldown for it. Just because the synergy between these 3 spells is so integral. Third and final, let's go over the talents I chose for this fight and why. I chose the Blessed Hammer for 2 reasons. First, there are a lot of adds here, and if they all get the debuff of 15% reduced damage on their hits, the add waves will be much easier to deal with. It also means that I can clear them out faster. And the second reason is I don't have to move much, just in, let's say, the 8 yards, same as Consecration, so I will be in Consecration for most of the fight, rendering the Consecrated Hammer useless. Now, Blinding Light is great for the adds, Retribution Aura as well, as I don't need the Blessing of Spell Warding or the Cavalier for anything in this fight. Okay, so I start the fight off with using the spells that have the largest cooldown, which are the Avenger's Shield and Judgment. Now here is the Fear. If you get hit only once with that, there is a high possibility of wipe. Now here's the Push, basically just does a little damage and nothing else, and Dark Slash. The Dark Slash is the most dangerous ability in this fight. If you don't have active mitigation up, it does a huge amount of damage, maybe 60 to 80% of your HP. Now all this swirls around the boss, it just means that you have to stay in the boss's range. and here he calls his minions, and they do a lot of damage. Combined with him and his abilities, I have to use cooldowns all the time. Avenging Wrath is an incredible cooldown for the healing and to kill off these adds faster. So I try to time the Avenging Wrath when the adds come. Of course, it's not going to be available for every add wave, but for every other it will be available. Now, here, right at this point, I ran out of Shield of Righteous, so I used the cooldown, and basically I have to keep these 3 stacks of shield up until the next cooldown I have to use. And that's the whole idea. It's just managing your cooldowns, and you have a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them. It's just when soloing like this, you use them often, frequently. You wouldn't be using them as much as you would use them here. And you basically just rinse and repeat. There's no berserker time here, so I can use my cooldowns freely, or I have to, otherwise I'm dead. And you can see me trying always to stay in the consecration, even when he's casting the fear. I try to get back as soon as possible, because the heal is stronger in there, the shield is stronger in there, and there's basically every reason for me to be in the consecration. Of course, because the shield and the heal aren't on a global cooldown, you can always cast consecration before casting the 2 spells. That's also something always you can keep in mind if you didn't pick the right talent in the first tier. Here I use Divine Shield because I just thought I didn't have time to get the shields and to get the heals. And basically Divine Shield is a sort of a stabilizer. You can wait out the 8 seconds, heal up, and then just wait for the cooldowns, for the other cooldowns to go off. And if you saw, I used the Judgment during that Divine Shield, because Judgment, as I said earlier, is very, very important for this build, and yeah, is a priority cast. Okay, so the boss is lower than half HP now, and I basically have only Avengers or Ardent Defender. Yeah, that's the only big cooldown, but I have my extra shields coming up in 20 seconds. I just popped the Avenging Wrath again to kill off the adds. And yeah, I have to hope to have enough cooldowns so that I kill the boss. And if you saw my previous video where I soloed the Eye of Ashara, on the first boss I always focused, the entire fight I focused the adds. Here I only focus the boss, because the Blessed Hammer is enough DPS with the Consecration, with the Avenger's shield, to kill them off with Cleave. And yeah, this boss hits harder than the boss in the first boss in Eye of Ashara, just because of that one ability. And of course I use the Tears Deliverance, I think it's called, or something else. The artifact ability, I use it always when the adds are up, because using it, and I try to time it when he casts his damaging ability, so I get damage reduction from him, from his biggest ability, that's Dark Slash, and from all the adds at the same time. So yeah, I haven't seen the raid so far, but if there's adds in fights, like keep in mind that the artifact ability is much more useful when you cast it on a larger group. And the boss will go down here. I just use Blessing of Protection for fun, and to not die from something silly. And he's dead. There is only one thing left to say. Treat every raid boss when you are progressing as I treated this one. Completely analyze his and your own capabilities and utilize the talent tree to its fullest potential. That is generally what good raiders do, but it is less and less frequent in the game, at least as far as I can see. To be honest, if we have the ability to solo content like this, there is no excuse for dying in the same content where there is a healer present, unless like you pulled 3 or 4 trash packs. Anyway, this spec has immense potential, and even scraping the barrel of that potential is enjoyable. If you have any questions, don't forget to ask in the comments below, as I certainly might have missed something important. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.